Hi everyone, welcome to the Marine Protected Areas update for EASME 2026. I'm Ellie Falconer, Marine Conservation Manager at the MMO, and I chaired this year's COP. Apologies I can't be there in person, but I hope you still find this presentation interesting. So thank you to all the individuals and organisations involved in the MPA COP this year. So we have the MMO, Eastern IFCA, the Yorkshire Marine Nature Partnership, Natural England, the Humber Nature Partnership, and Whale and Dolphin Conservation. It's been a busy year for MPAs with a lot of really interesting updates. So I'll start with a general MPA overview from the MMO. The MMO have been working on the management of fishing activities in MPAs for some years now as part of a multi-stage project. We ran a formal consultation in the summer of 2025 on stage 3, which proposed management measures in 42 English offshore MPAs. The management measures are detailed in 4 regional bylaws. Of the 42 sites, we're proposing new bottom tow gear management in 36 sites. The remaining sites already have bottom tow gear prohibitions in place via previous stages, and this has amounted to 30,000 kilometres squared of additional bottom tow gear prohibition. There are also 5 prohibitions for traps, 2 for bottom set nets and lines, and 1 for the removal of spiny lobster. In the North Sea or the EASME region, there are new prohibitions for 12 MPAs, and this includes 12 bottom tow gear closures, 3 traps, and 1 bottom set nets and lines. Stage 4 of MPAs focuses on highly mobile species, and in the EASME region we have the Southern North Sea SAC for porpoise, and the Outer Thames Estuary SPA and Greater Wash SPA for birds. Following a call for evidence in 2024, the team have continued working on site assessments and including the evidence provided. And the focus of stage 4 at the minute is currently harbour porpoise bycatch. So while no management decisions have been made, the best available evidence is pointing to harbour porpoise bycatch from gill nets may need to be managed. So the MMO conducted informal engagement, in person and virtual, in the autumn and winter of 2025 to gather more data and evidence on porpoise bycatch and the early views on 6 potential management measures, which you can see in the diagram on the screen. So these measures included time area closures, effort limitation, dynamic time area closures, mandatory ADDs on all gill netting vessels, voluntary changes, and bycatch monitoring and reporting, the last of which is not an option on its own, but would be the first step or go alongside anything else brought in. So MMO held in-person events to speak to fishers in Harwich, West Mersey and Ramsgate about this, virtual workshops with our stakeholder groups, and we are now working through all the feedback and updating our management options documents. The MMO also manages marine non-licensable activities in MPAs from the shoreline up to 12 nautical miles. And these are usually recreational and include things like kayaking, anchoring, sailing and snorkeling. There are 98 MPAs that require assessment for MNLAs, and we're currently developing impacts evidence documents which review the potential impacts of MNLA pressures on MPA features. We'll then be completing site assessments of these 98 sites over the next 4 years, engaging with local communities to develop appropriate management measures if necessary. So in 2026, the North Sea MPAs of focus are the Wash and North Norfolk SAC and Cromer Shoals MCZ. We're currently working on site assessments, and we conducted initial engagement on these sites in autumn 2024. We held further engagement events in March 2026, which focused on the outcomes of our workshops and the management that we'd like to take forward for these 2 sites. So for Cromer MCZ, the proposed management focuses on the removal of reported anchorage on the chalk beds, which we're working with the UKHO and MCA on, and we're also having conversations around divers retrieving abandoned, lost and discarded fishing gear. For the Wash SAC, management is focused on the removal of designated anchorage over the Sabellaria Reef. So working with the King's Lynn Harbour Authority on this and also working collaboratively with stakeholders to reduce the marine-based disturbance to seals, primarily from wildlife tour boat operators. Regionally, in Flamborough Head European Marine Site, visitor pressure continues to be an issue. So recreational activities can disturb our breeding seabird colony and non-designated features such as seals. Trampling and degradation of the SSSI, grassland associated with seal watching from the cliff top, is also becoming an issue. The current management plan requires reviewing this year. However, there are resource challenges with this. There's also a lack of clarity around how the emerging Yorkshire Wolds National Landscape AONB should or shouldn't be incorporated. There are also inconsistencies in the application of S106 through the planning process, which we're working with partners to resolve, and also exploring more strategic options for managing recreational pressures across the designated sites. For the Holderness Inshore MCZ, Natural England are exploring a protected site strategy, and a workshop was held in March to share this idea with stakeholders and discuss what this might look like, with further engagement events likely in 2026 and 2027. In the Humber, most of the work in 2025 was prep for the next 5 years ahead. So recently they approved the Humber Management Scheme Action Plan 2026 to 2031, which covers what actions are aimed to progress over the next 5 years. The document is very much relevant authority focused, and they're looking at making a glossy version for the public. They've also been looking at what pressures are on the Humber estuary and looking at creating a risk register for the Humber whereby pressures will be listed from most concern to least concern. They're also attempting to audit what data is being collected for the Humber and where the potential gaps are that can be plugged. And there was recently a marine invasive non-native species workshop, the purpose of which was to see whether stakeholders on the Humber thought a marine biosecurity plan would be worthwhile. The workshop looked at avenues of spread and discussed what processes are currently in place and should inns be found. And the response was a resounding yes to developing a marine biosecurity plan. Following the publication of the Whale Dolphins Conservation's report on the status of UK MPAs for cetaceans in 2024, two main areas were highlighted as the most poorly managed MPAs, noise pollution and bycatch. Noise limits for offshore wind. WDC has welcomed the proposed noise limits, as we've been calling for these for many years, and are working to ensure that any noise limits are suitable for protecting cetacean MPAs, and they will be fit for purpose. They're engaging with other stakeholders, including industry and NGOs, and leading workshops and meetings to discuss these noise limits and what can be done to support and shape these going forwards. They're also running Quiet Seas Please campaign with a focus on noise and the importance of these noise limits. With the Marine Recovery Fund, they're engaging with stakeholders about the different types of projects that this will fund and pushing for like measures to ensure that all MPAs are protected. Within compensatory measures, they're engaging with stakeholders to ensure that the mitigation hierarchy is strictly followed and that compensatory measures are used as a last resort. Currently, they verbally agreed that compensatory measures do not apply to cetaceans due to their highly mobile nature, but they're concerned that this will change in the future. They're also concerned that any measures delivered to compensate for impacts on MPAs could have a knock-on degradation effect on cetacean MPAs, such as where their sites overlap, such as the Dogger Bank and Southern North Sea SACs. So they're pushing that the assessment of suitability of measures must consider overlapping and neighbouring MPAs. In terms of bycatch, fishing in MPAs, they're continuing to push for a ban on bottom trawling, working with other NGOs on campaigns to support these, and also responding to consultations such as the MMO Stage 3 and Stage 4, as well as the Scottish Inshore MPA consultation. They're in the very early stages of analysing the extent of different fisheries and regulations or advice for those fisheries and cetacean MPAs, and are aiming to produce a report with recommendations taking a look at case studies where fisheries management and MPAs have benefited fisheries. They're also working with the industry, working with fishers to trial new gear types, such as sinking lines on creel pots, and an initial small-scale project was successful, with fisheries reporting no reduction in take and they're easy to use. And there's hopeful potential expansion of these trials. They also undertook a survey to understand fishers' views on switching to alternative gears, and a report was just published and is available on the WDC website. They're also looking for funding so they can contract a consultant to undertake an economic valuation of cetacean MPAs with a focus on value to fisheries. This has been identified as a knowledge gap that could help with gaining support from the sector. For our inshore MPAs, the East and IFCA are conducting habitats regulation assessments of amber and green gear feature interactions in 21 MPAs. So there have been 3 assessments signed off by Natural England. These are Inner Dowsing, Race Bank and North Ridge SAC, Alden Ore Estuary SPA, and Orford Ness Shingle Street SAC. The assessment for Devon Estuary SPA is currently with Natural England for final review, and there are 4 others currently being updated following Natural England's initial advice. These are Ald Ore and Butley Estuary SAC, Rainwater SPA, Gibraltar Point SPA, and Haysborough Hammond and Winterton SAC. The remaining 13 are at various stages of completion, depending on their size and complexity, and there are annual HRAs being completed for major cockle, mussel, brown shrimp and whelk fisheries in the Wash. For chroma shoal MCZ, an adaptive risk management approach has been taken to inform management with evidence. Research projects include conducting multi-beam, side scan, and ROV surveys to chart the extent of vulnerable rugged chalk features, utilising trackers and IVMS to plot fishing activities in the MCZ, capturing ROV data to inform a rates of damage assessment, considering gear adaptations to reduce impacts to chalk, researching the financial and social importance of the rugged chalk areas in the fishery, and undertaking a natural disturbance study to understand potting damage against a backdrop of natural disturbance. The condition assessments this year have focused on SPA and SAC features. A list of all completed assessments and resulting feature conditions can be seen on the slide. The shelduck has seen significant declines in population since the site designation, and there is a potential that site-specific pressures could be the cause, such as shellfish declines in the wash. Similarly, pintail has also seen population decline since designation. However, the reasons for this are currently unclear and further research is required. Harbour seals in the wash have also seen significant decline in recent years, and there's currently research ongoing to try and better understand the drivers for this decline. Thank you to all those who've been involved in the MPA community of practice this year, and a massive thank you for listening and bearing with my video recording. Thank you.